The story that shook the nation.
A plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer and overthrow the government.
Tonight, we take you inside the plot, bringing you an in-depth investigation of their plans.
They know that it's right here at your doorstep is kind of worrisome.
And giving you the most comprehensive look at the suspects yet.
Pretty clear they just want to shut us down and try to imprison us again.
Excuse me, are you Adam's mom?
This is News 8 in prime time from Wood TV. The Governor Plot. Here's Susan Shaw and Brian Sterling.
Tonight, dissecting the plot to kidnap Michigan's governor. Anger over the lockdown boiling over into an alleged violent plan to take the state's leader by force. Now, 14 men are charged. 3 of them are from right here in West Michigan.
Tonight, our Target 8 investigators zero in on the timeline of terror, from the militia group's plan on paper to actual action.
Then, from rifle ranges and training grounds to late-night northern Michigan stakeouts, we take you to the places the Wolverine Watchmen were allegedly organizing the overthrow.
Our team coverage tonight kicks off with Susan Samples.
They're in. Locked and loaded.
Suspected terrorist takedown.
Boom, a flashbang grenade.
Across the state.
It's not like Vietnam.
A state of shock.
It's just unimaginable.
Allegations of a brazen plot.
To kidnap and possibly kill me.
Exposed to the light for the first time, but in the dark corners of the web, months of alleged planning, encrypted cyber chats, secret meetings, say the feds. June 6th, Dublin, Ohio, a meeting of a dozen or so like-minded militia.
They have us hating each other. They have us harming ourselves.
This YouTube video purportedly recorded at the Ohio meeting.
Anybody that wants you to hate yourself or somebody else is your enemy.
In the corner, in the tri-corner hat, accused terrorist Barry Croft of Delaware at the Ohio meeting here, and a month or so later, a guest on a YouTube talk show.
Only I wear a tri-corner hat because I feel like we've forgotten our past and our history.
He's a single father, truck driver, pardoned last year by Delaware's governor for a 90s felony firearm conviction.
All the people in the United States of America's rights are being trampled by a tyrannical government.
We are not here for that.
Back to that Ohio meeting where the feds say an informant recorded discussions on creating a society that followed the U.S. Bill of Rights, claims that Governor Whitmer was violating the Constitution, and talk about murdering tyrants or taking a sitting governor.
We've been pitted against each other.
Also at the Ohio gathering, say investigators, Adam Fox, a 37-year-old employee and temporary basement tenant of a Grand Rapids vacuum shop. The feds say Fox was a ringleader. His mom had nothing to say this week.
Can you tell me about your son?
We caught up with Fox's mom as she and a man picked up his belongings from the Vac Shack.
I don't know what happened. He's changed in the last 8 months.
Fox's boss, Vac Shack owner Brian Titus, says Fox was angry over the virus lockdown.
Wearing a mask, he believes his Constitution rights were taken away from him. He's afraid that if the Democrats become in, he kept saying they're going to take our Second Amendment rights away.
Titus had been letting Fox live in the store's basement, but was kicking him out, scared about his employees' militia ties and growing gun and ammo collection, though Titus says he knew nothing of the Whitmer kidnapping plot.
That's what happens when you try to help out people. He broke up with his girlfriend a week ago, and he had nowhere to go with his dogs. You can see there's dogs in here.
June 14th, in an alleged phone call recorded by an informant, Fox said he needed 200 men to storm the Capitol building in Lansing and take hostages, including Governor Whitmer.
We're the people!
June 18th, at the very building the feds say he wanted to storm, an armed Adam Fox attended a gun rights rally where he met up with 2 more accused terrorists, 42-year-old Pete Musico and his 26-year-old son-in-law, Joseph Morrison, co-founders of the Wolverine Watchmen militia. They hosted field training exercises for the group at their home in the Jackson area. Neighbor Pam Karshnock.
beautiful country out here, and then all of a sudden, out of the peace and quiet, bam, 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 for hours.
Joseph Morrison is a former Marine reservist who's known among the watchmen as Boogaloo Bunyan.
Why do you guys all have Hawaiian shirts on?
Just a shirt.
Again, that's Adam Fox, and next to him, Morrison. I happened to notice their clothes at the gun rights rally.
Summertime. Hawaiian time.
That's Pete Musico trying to convince me they just really like tropical threads, the whole group.
That doesn't mean anything.
No, not that I know of. What does it mean?
Hawaiian shirts are a signature of the extreme libertarian Boogaloo movement.
Very pro-gun, very anti-police, very anti-authority, period. And in its most extreme forms, they advocate a civil war.
On the other end of this camera, armed and inside the Capitol this time, another alleged terrorist.
Quit being sheep.
William Knoll. Going live at the lockdown protest in late May.
Finally, some angry Michiganders in here throwing a fit. This is about time. Wake the up, people.
38-year-old Knoll from Shelbyville and his twin brother Michael from Plainwell were both charged in the kidnapping plot.
Yes, ma'am.
Michael has a minor property offense on his record. William, no record at all. They're both part of the Michigan Liberty Militia.
I'm not gonna lie, though, shooting starts happening. I'm heading up north, you know that?
Not me, dude. I'm gonna have fun hunting.
The twins talked to News 8 earlier this summer, denying any connection between militias and white supremacy.
Everything we do gets turned into being a racist. I'm not even sure how.
They boasted, too, about providing security at other rallies.
Some of the events that we're at, we don't really actually don't even agree with. But as constitutionalists, you have the right to protest as long as you're peaceful.
June 20th, the Vac Shack Basement. The feds say the scene of another clandestine meeting, one where participants put their cell phones in a box upstairs to avoid bugs. But a mole among them recorded the meeting anyway and alleged plans to assault the state capitol and counter law enforcement using Molotov cocktails to destroy police cars. June 28th, federal agents say Musico and Morrison hosted a field training exercise at their home near Jackson.
I'm still shaking. I'm still shaking knowing it was that close to me.
Participating in the training that day, 3 more alleged kidnap conspirators from the state's east side, 26-year-old Caleb Franks of Waterford, 25-year-old Ty Garbin of Heartland, and 32-year-old Brandon Caserta of Canton, seen here on YouTube blasting police.
This is a violent gang, okay, that has each other's back, and they're organized.
Before the federal charges, Caserta had a few traffic offenses. Franks and Garbin had no criminal records at all.
You need to know who the people are that are taking your rights.
The weekend of July 10th, another field training exercise, this time at a property in Cambria, Wisconsin, where the feds say Fox and others tried and failed to detonate an IED, while Franks shot a rifle with a silencer.
In late July, increasingly violent chatter. Federal agents quote Fox as saying in a recorded call, "I just want to make the world glow, and I'm just so sick of it. Everything is going to have to be annihilated." In another recorded meeting, Fox allegedly said their best bet would be to snatch and grab the governor at her vacation home or summer residence.
And in an encrypted online chat, this alleged suggestion from terror suspect Daniel Harris. Have one person go to her house, knock on the door, and when she answers it, just cap her. 38-year-old Harris from Lake Orion is a former Marine like Joseph Morrison. Another terror defendant reported to Army basic training, but the DOD says 22-year-old Paul Ballar of Oakland County failed to complete requirements for enlistment. Still, federal agents say Ballar was able to provide fellow terror suspects with plans for tactical maneuvers at trainings and coded language for covert communications.
One of the alarming aspects of some of these groups is their attempt to recruit former or active law enforcement and military. And to the extent that they're able to do that, then they have on board people who know the tactics, who know how to do this, and that makes them dangerous.
August 29th, the feds say Adam Fox headed north for the first time to surveil Governor Whitmer's northern Michigan vacation home.
So you have the right to remain silent.
Also on that trip, say investigators, were an informant and a third man also charged in the plot, 22-year-old Eric Molitor of Cadillac. Earlier this year, Molitor's mother led the charge to make Wexford County a Second Amendment sanctuary county.
In order to be released, you must...
Another suspect, 38-year-old Sean Fix of Wayne County, reportedly a truck driver by trade, helped identify the governor's house, say investigators. And on Thursday, new charges against a 14th man, 51-year-old Brian Higgins of Wisconsin, who the state says helped surveil the governor's home, providing night vision goggles for the task.
There's serious allegations.
One suspect's lawyer, Gary Springstead, warned against a rush to judgment.
How they bear out, I think we have to let play out in court to find out what is fact from fiction and what is protected constitutional activity and what isn't.
It's a tremendous threat.
A tremendous threat, but no surprise to John Farmer, whose center at Rutgers University sounded the alarm nationwide in early 2020 about the Boogaloo movement that the feds say found a target in Michigan.
It was a serious plot. I think they really intended to try to do this. And it is a direct usurpation of the legitimate government of Michigan.
When we return, in the footsteps of the militia, we're taking you to the governor's northern Michigan neighborhood.
Her neighbors telling us about strange boats at night, a lot of extra street traffic, and why the group's plot to blow up a bridge was doomed from the beginning. That's next.
Now inside the group's training grounds.
The 14 suspects are starting to turn ideas into action. But something else is happening. Neighbors of the governor's northern Michigan vacation home are noticing strange things.
Here's Target 8's Ken Kolker tracing the steps of the suspects.
The kidnapping plot brought the Michigan militia here to the tiny harborside village of Elk Rapids, just north of Traverse City, and where the governor keeps a summer home. But before driving here, they gathered just outside the village of Luther, about an hour and 20 minutes south.
Well, it's all good people here in Luther. You know, it's one big family. Everybody kind of works together.
A village that relies on deer hunting season in a county that draws retirees from downstate.
The reason for that is to get away from populated areas and the hustle and bustle of the big city. And people come up here to relax.
3 Mile Road is just a few turns outside of town. A dirt road where tracks left by deer commingle with those left by pickups. Off 3 Mile, a 2-track runs about a quarter mile west to a trailer hidden in the woods. Confederate flag stickers on the window are the first sign you're in the right place. Then there's the rickety lookout post atop the trailer. Behind the trailer, piles of old tires form the back wall of what the federal government is calling a field training facility for militia members. Shell casings and shotgun shells litter the ground. 2 human silhouettes are crudely painted in red on a wooden wall, the silhouettes peppered with holes. This, according to state and federal affidavits, is where 10 of the militia members met the weekend of September 12th. With them were an informant and an undercover agent secretly audio recording everything. The feds say that one of those members, Ty Garvin, owns the property, but local records don't show any record of that. The Lake County Sheriff says he was unaware of any of this until the feds told him just last week. None of the men were from his jurisdiction. So you're not aware of any militia gatherings here or anything like that?
Well, there are several militia groups in the area. You know, I've talked to a few of the people that that are involved with that. There are some that are primarily in the Luther area. I don't think this actual sect was part of that organization.
It was Croft, the feds say, who brought what he called a, quote, chemistry set. Bomb components. He removed the cap from a commercial firework, added more black powder, then wrapped the device in pennies and electrical tape for shrapnel. Neighbors heard a blast from a half-mile away.
There was a big explosion, big boom, and I know what bombs sound like from the military.
But they did not report it.
You hear a lot of gunfire here. Where we live, it's so rural. It's pretty serious, though, when you've got a group of people that are going to kidnap your governor. That's serious and that's scary.
There's ways to go about things and there's ways not to go about things. And when we have this fanatical approach to something like that, because it didn't only involve the governor, it involved law enforcement. So obviously that's near and dear to my heart.
At the camp, Fox picked a handful of militia members, along with the informant and undercover agents, for the 80-minute drive to the governor's vacation home just outside Elk Rapids. 3 separate cars. Fox called it, quote, a perfect effing setup. But first, a little nighttime surveillance. Elk Rapids is a village of 1,600 people in Antrim County, with a one-screen theater, where the newspaper is still free, where entertainment includes watching storms roll in over the bay. A summer resort town where colder weather has already sent many south.
We don't become a ghost town, but we definitely can tell that the season is over and people have taken off. But it's a nice little place. I love it here. We have a bridge right on the edge of town. It's at our big intersection with our stoplight.
Fox and an undercover agent ended up here that night under the M31 bridge in Elk Rapids, looking for a place to set a bomb. The plan was to blow up the bridge, creating a distraction and delaying the response of police.
They were anticipating they were going to blow that bridge as a distraction. On one hand, okay, we'd like to make some changes to it. On the other hand, that's not the way to do it. So it sounded like they probably had what they needed to cause the explosion. I can't say how big an explosion, but it probably would have been enough to cripple the bridge.
The feds say that Fox, Molitor, and an informant had been in Elk Rapids 2 weeks earlier, on August 29th, to conduct initial surveillance of the governor's vacation home, taking photos and slow-motion drive-by video. They talked about spying on her home from the water, even discussed painting a boat black for the operation. One spoke of having night vision goggles. They also allegedly scouted the local police department and nearest state police post to see how long it would take police to respond to trouble at the vacation home. For the nighttime trip in September, after stopping at the bridge, according to the affidavit, they drove to the vacation home using a dash cam to record the neighborhood. She has uncontrolled power. All good things must come to an end, Croft is quoted as saying. Their plan, the feds say, was to kidnap the governor and put her on trial in Wisconsin for treason, or abandon her in a disabled boat in the middle of Lake Michigan. The governor's vacation home is a couple minutes north of Elk Rapids, on Birch Lake, which got its name for obvious reasons.
The lake's wonderful. It's warm, it's spring-fed, it's taken care of.
For the most part, lakeside neighbors did not want to be identified, fearing that the feds did not get all the militia members. But many questioned the militia's plan. Some called it dumb. First, how could blowing up the bridge slow the police response when there's another bridge a couple hundred yards away? Second, neighbors hadn't seen the governor up here all year.
As far as I know, Gretchen hasn't been here in weeks and weeks and weeks. She's never really shown up here during the summertime, maybe once.
The governor's vacation home isn't hard to find.
I just want to make sure our voices are heard.
Just this spring, protesters with a Trump sign gathered at the end of her street.
They sat right outside our house, right on the corner here, like Gretchen was down there and she could hear them or something.
It was in recent weeks that some neighbors grew suspicious. That includes the police chief, who lives just a few doors away from the governor.
Just vehicles slowing down in the neighborhood, sometimes strange cars being parked somewhere nearby. Hard to say if it was the militia guys or if it were the feds already in place trying to keep an eye to see what was going on.
One neighbor noticed strangers on the water.
I do know that there were suspicious fishermen on the lake, people that we had never seen going slowly down that way. We keep an eye on the lake, watching it all the time, and you get accustomed to who's there, what time of day people are there, those types of things. And these people were there at night, and we just don't have very many night fishermen here. That's worrisome. We've heard a lot about Michigan militia in the past, and to know that it's right here at your doorstep is kind of worrisome.
The feds say that the day after that surveillance mission, the militia members met back at their spot outside Luther. They confirmed their plot, agreeing to one more training session in October. 2 weeks later, on October 2nd, Fox confirmed that he had bought an 800,000-watt taser for the kidnapping. They talked about plans to buy tactical gear and $4,000 worth of explosives.
That's a little unnerving. That's not what you expect. It's. I don't care whether you're trusting or not trusting. You don't expect something like the militia, heavily armed group who supposedly have plans to kidnap the governor. We don't expect that around here.
Here, where villagers are more accustomed to scenes like this.